You are a Muslim.
Yes,
Yeah.
I am, yeah. Your friend is Muslim, yeah?
Yeah, he is. He's been trying to convert me for like 2 years now, I think.
Alhamdulillah.
Maybe I'm trying too hard.
Yeah. What is, maybe we start with what's stopping you, what's holding you back?
I can't get myself to, I can't convince myself to believe in it.
Do you believe in a God though?
I don't believe in a God.
Okay, so in 2 years he hasn't convinced you that there is some sort of intelligence out there that created everything.
No, I think this is the biggest leap, because if I did believe in a creator, oh, sure. If I did make that leap, that's the bigger leap, right? From not believing in anything to suddenly believing in a creator. And that's a bigger leap than going from a creator to Allah, right?
Okay, fair enough. And tell me a bit about your background. You're a student, what are you studying, your work?
Yeah, I actually just finished studying mathematics.
Mathematics,
Yeah.
eh? Okay, fantastic. And
I was born Catholic, but I didn't believe in it. We didn't practice much. Stopped going to church when I was about 5, I think.
why do you think that was?
My dad started getting angry at the church. The guy in charge, he was saying that they were lying to us, so we just left.
But how did that affect you? Like, did you believe in what he said? Did you kind of look into it, or did you just cut it off?
To be honest, like when I was a kid, I was very, I guess Reddit atheist, right? Like, God is stupid. I hate all this. It's only recently I started
Being open to the matter.
Yeah. Like, and I have looked into both. I've looked into mainly Christianity and Islam, but
Why do you think you were so fervently against it?
because I was an edgy kid, I think. I just I like to go against stuff, and I think that's literally the only reason why. And I just like clung onto it. I made it my identity, I guess. But that's when I was a kid. Like I was, 8, 9.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like when I was just learning about stuff.
Right.
I never really believed in like like Santa Claus or magic or all this stuff as a kid, even when I was like 4 or 5. So like I guess it's a natural extension from that, right?
Right. So as Muslims, we believe that, I'm sure as your friends told you, that we believe only one God.
Yeah.
We believe he's independent. We believe he doesn't beget, nor is he begotten. You understand that?
Could you explain?
Yeah, so it means that he doesn't beget, like he doesn't have children or daughters, and he wasn't begotten, meaning he didn't come from a father or a mother.
I
So
understand.
he's got no family.
Yeah.
And lastly, there's nothing like him. So this is our 4-pronged criteria. It's in chapter 112 of the Quran, of God, of a creator. If I was to ask you, let's just try peel everything back as much as we can. When you see around you, there is existence, correct?
I think so.
So you don't believe. So let's stick with that point.
I do believe. I don't think I can know for sure.
Do you believe that you exist?
I believe I exist.
Okay. Any doubts with that?
I don't know for sure, if that's what you mean.
Okay. When you say you don't know for sure, is it like a 50-50 flex?
No, it's not 50. The difficulty is what does existence mean? I don't really know what this word means to exist. It's a very difficult thing to define.
There's a fly here. I'm going like this because I believe I exist. But I'm confused why you're going like that if you're unsure if you exist or not.
Why am I going like this? Because I don't like flies around me.
But you don't exist. There's a possibility, isn't it?
There's a possibility.
Do you see? If I was to entertain this point slightly, and forgive me for, but it is an important point, because sometimes we become very skeptical.
Okay.
You're not being skeptical with the fly at the moment.
No, certainly not.
But let's just say, for example, crossing the road.
Sure.
Am I correct to assume that you would look both ways before crossing the road?
Yeah, most times.
If someone was to take a swing at you, you would try to avoid it as much as possible. If you saw some filth or some feces on the ground, you would avoid it.
Yeah.
Doesn't that show to an objective observer that you not only believe that you exist, but the things around you exist as well? To a very high possibility.
Yeah, you see what does exist mean? Tell me.
Being conscious.
Being conscious. Does a rock exist?
Experiencing.
Does a rock exist?
The rock exists,
Is
yes.
it conscious?
I don't believe a rock is conscious, no.
So that's that's clearly not the right definition, right?
Not necessarily, because even in terms of conscious, there's different types of consciousness, isn't it? You've got certain consciousness that are present in cells, but we're not going to say that it's a human consciousness, do you see? So the more then you go into it, then we need to delve into philosophy. We need to look, for example, if you look at existence, there's three types of existence.
Sure.
There's an impossible existence, there's a contingent existence, and there's a necessary existence. Any philosophy you go into, even if you go to modal logic, that's how existence is classified.
Okay.
Yeah? Impossible existence is like a square circle. Dependent existence, pretty straightforward, if you depend on something else. In fact, the definition of dependency is something that's composed of parts, that can be any other way, and that can cease to exist. That's the philosophical definition of dependency. Something that's independent is the opposite of that. It's not composed of parts, can't be any other way, and cannot cease to exist. If I was to ask you a simple question, are you dependent or independent?
Dependent.
Then you're dependent on something else, correct? Then that's dependent on something else, that's dependent on something else. Naturally, the chain has to end somewhere, isn't it? Whether it's logically or whether it's rationally. Mathematically, of course, there are theories and there's pen to paper. I'm talking about reality and what's observed and experienced by us. There has to be an end to that chain. And I'll tell you by one simple analogy. If I was to, just before I throw a ball, I ask your permission. I haven't thrown it yet. Then I ask his permission, his permission, his permission, and it goes on for infinity. Would I ever get to throw the ball if it's just going on for infinity? There has to be an end to that chain for me to eventually throw the ball. So the fact that I've thrown the ball, after I've said I've asked permission, that means somebody in that chain said, yes, there has to be an end to that chain. Because as soon as that chain ended, the ball was thrown. So the fact that you are here, you are living, you're dependent on something, it's irrational and absurd to believe that that chain can go on forever. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
And philosophically, I'm not going to theology at the moment. Philosophically, rationally, there has to be an end to that chain. That's called a necessary existence.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can't exist. It's a paradox of sorts or a contradiction of sorts. You see?
Okay.
So philosophically now, there is a necessary existence. Now, you've got people that are, philosophers. Now the question would be, what is that end to that chain?
Guess you would say God, right?
Well, we would evidence that it's God. And I would tell you, and I can, using first principles, evidence that that is God.
Could you?
Yeah. For example, you accept that that necessary existence is independent, correct?
Yeah, I guess. It's
Because,
just,
sure.
the problem I have is, how do you know this even exists? How do you know there is an end to the chain?
Because I'm saying philosophically, this is using metaphysics and rational, basic logic. That if something goes on forever, then how do you explain the dependencies regarding it? It doesn't make sense. In order to believe in an infinite regress, that it's called, you have to accept an absurdity that, oh, there's an infinite regress, but we still exist. What are we depending upon? Oh, upon an unlimited chain. Science falls apart, philosophy falls apart, logic falls apart. So I'm saying, logically, rationally, there has to be an end to that chain. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
See, I was...
You can push back if you want.
Oh, no. Just please continue, because I was trying to think of some, it's something that you do in maths, right? So I was trying to think why I couldn't, so... Okay, yeah, please go on with
No problem.
Yeah.
Even if somebody was to say, okay, infinite, there's infinite. The thing is infinite, that's why I gave that preface, because I know you're into maths. Yeah, mathematically, you even have minus numbers. That doesn't mean you go to the shop and you say, okay, can you give me -1 cake, please? Then you can do that.
Selling a cake, you know?
But then you could do, no, but using that number by saying, yeah, give me -1 cake, or give me infinity cake, or give me this
number, I guess.
Do you see? So it's not a number, it's a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're okay with the fact that this necessary existence, it makes sense that it's independent, correct?
Yeah.
Now I would argue, logically and rationally, it has to be powerful, because as dependent things, you depend for your power that which you depend upon. So what you depend upon has to have more power than you because you're depending upon that thing, correct? So naturally, if you've got all of these dependent things, depending on this necessary existence logically, rationally has to have immeasurable power. Because everything is depending upon it.
Why is that immeasurable?
Why is that?
Why is it immeasurable?
Because creation as we see it is immeasurable to us from an anthropocentric point of view.
Are you saying our universe is infinite?
No, I'm saying that from our observation, we don't know life, what's out there. So as from an anthropocentric sort of view, we're saying that the universe, from what we see, is dependent, whether it's stars, whether it's comets, whether it's particles, whether it's dark matter, dark energy. To us, whatever is out there is all dependent upon God. And I would argue...
Dependent maybe, but measurable, no?
Immeasurable...
Just measurable.
How do you measure it?
You can define one.
Break that down for me. Because we...
You don't need a concrete, kilograms or meters or whatever, but... Would you argue this universe is finite?
This universe, according to the science that we know, it's growing, isn't it?
It's constantly expanding, but not infinite, you see?
I agree it's not infinite, but what I'm saying is immeasurable power according to us. All of this argument is from us, anthropocentric point of view.
I know, but I am just arguing that it's not immeasurable.
Would you say, maybe it's the word immeasurable, that's causing issues. Would you contend with that this being would have a great deal of power?
Sure, great deal of power.
So independence.
Although finite.
Great deal of power.
Although finite, yeah.
Finite power.
Yeah. A great deal, but finite.
Why would you say it's finite if you're accepting that the universe is expanding?
Constantly growing, sure. It doesn't mean it's finite. Infinite.
And because we don't know what's outside of the universe, is there a possibility that there could be other places?
Sure, there's a possibility, but we don't know for sure. I think making a claim that it is infinite is a bit of a...
I didn't say infinite, I said immeasurable.
Immeasurable. You see, I take those things as the same thing. You can't measure it.
I'll give you an example. If I look at this pot, I would say for me, measuring the grass is immeasurable.
Yeah, okay.
You see?
Yeah, okay.
In that sense.
I guess it's just a misunderstanding of...
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So, independence, would you say that design requires intelligence?
Most of the time.
What, can you give me an example of times in which design wouldn't require intelligence?
Say, the cliffs, right? They've been worn down by the sea, and yet they are still beautiful.
How would you classify that design objectively?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't call it intelligent, sure.
Would you say, let's go with objective measures of design, like symmetry?
Symmetry, okay.
Symmetry, or the golden ratio, or Fibonacci's, Fibonacci spiral, etc., yeah? That's something as a mathematician you can understand.
Yeah,
and you can measure as well.
It's a golden ratio business. I wouldn't say it's a... Yeah, okay, yeah, we'll go with it.
Yeah, the 1.618, it's used by the Apple logo. It's used even by mobile phones. It's used...
5 minus 1 over 2 or something.
Yeah, it comes down to 1.618.
Yeah.
And it's used even to kind of measure the beauty of human beings. It's used in logos. Some say Leonardo da Vinci even used in the Vitruvian Man. Yeah. So something that you can measure. Would you say that it's the inference to the best explanation is design equals intelligence?
Perhaps the best explanation, but not the only one.
That's fine.
And not always the best explanation either.
Would you say it's the inference to the best explanation? If not, why not?
Well, it depends on what you're saying has that intelligent design. If it were an iPhone, sure. But if we're talking about us or our existence, then I don't think we can make the same inference, you know?
Wouldn't you say that we have the effects of design within us? Or do we look like random beings that have... Would you look at another human being and go, chance?
To an extent. To an extent, honestly, yeah, I would.
Break that down for me.
Right, like, we are not perfect beings. It's true. You know,
I'm not talking
we
about
have-
perfection. I'm talking about design, outwardly designed.
Okay. I'm talking. If we were designed, our design would be more perfect than it is.
Let me refine it more further. I'm saying, looking at a human being, would you opt, when you see a human being, would you say design or would you say chance? What makes the most sense to you?
With my current knowledge, I would honestly say chance.
Chance, yeah? You say chance created the human being.
Bearing in mind that, you know, if we just look at the brain alone and how complex that is, you know, billions and billions of neurons working together, that's only one part of the human body. You know what I mean? Are you really...
So would you say chance created us?
I wouldn't say chance created us because
Transformed us?
Chance is not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like randomness. You know, I guess. Yeah, sure. I would say there is a chance that we are here purely from randomness, just from, you know, these infinitesimally small probabilities.
It's 1 in 10 to the power 30 and that's just for our planet being the way it is. That's not even looking at the probabilities of the smallest amino acid in our body and the probability and the chance of that coming together. Because even if you look at amino acids, the possibility of an amino acid, because they're like puzzle pieces, isn't it?
Yeah.
If one amino acid is a little bit off, then the whole amino acid is defunct. In fact, one of the elements that's necessary for our survival, the carbon element, that has to be within 1% of the nuclear ground state energy. Otherwise, for the 3 heliums to come together, they have to be within 1%.
In addition to
That's very, very specific.
Can I
That's
ask you
been finely
something?
tuned,
Can I ask you
yes.
something? How tall are you?
About 5'9".
5'9", but not exactly, right?
I haven't checked recently.
5'9.6'8".
If I check, I'd know exactly.
4'4", but you can't know exactly because it goes on forever.
Not necessarily,
How not necessarily?
because the question would be, when is my height increasing or decreasing? So for that day,
It doesn't have to be about your height decreasing. Let's just take this stand, right?
yeah,
This is not going to change height. How tall is this stand?
if I measure it, maybe
So, say 100, 120, I don't know, it doesn't matter, but it's not exactly 120, that's what I'm saying. It's 120.5924, etc. It goes on forever. It
Yeah.
will go on forever. Now, the chance of this mic stand being exactly that real number, the probability, it's 0. It's not above 0, it is 0. And yet, are you denying that it is that?
But the difference here is you don't apply that metric in any part of your rational and logical life. If somebody asks you your height, you won't say, what an absurd question, that number can't be measured. Somebody says, oh, how many kids do you have? What do you mean, how many kids do I have? That number is 2.01234.
No, the number of kids is 2 or 1, it can't be between. It's,
Not necessarily, because the question would be, when do you define the age that it's a child and not a baby? Or a baby, not an adult? Where do you draw that line? In different countries, some will say
Oh, you're
puberty.
saying children is an offspring, no?
Well, I'm saying both. Some people will define children as when you pass a certain age. Some will say puberty. Some will say, no, this isn't exactly. But we don't go about our lives living like that. By saying, you know what, I can't give my height, I can't give my weight, I can't give my preference.
That's what we
No,
get.
we live, and this is a process in science called abduction. The inference to the best explanation. That's all I'm saying. Because technically speaking, yes, you can be a skeptic when it comes to everything. Yeah, but you'll accept that you exist, that there is existence. Hopefully you go about your life living like that. If somebody comes to your home, you're not going to say, look, I know you want to rob me, but there's a possibility that I don't exist, so you might as well go off here.
Brother, what I'm...
Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I think me not letting the robber, rob me, this is not me denying my existence or affirming my existence.
At that moment, you definitely believe you exist, and you definitely believe he exists. That's why you're trying to defend yourself.
Why is that the case?
Because
What do you mean by existence? Again, it's...
okay, let's take a Cartesian way, thinking.
thinking. Sure.
I think, therefore I am.
Prove it.
Are you not thinking?
I am thinking. Yeah.
Even
There you go. The fact that we're having a conversation, the fact that we're understanding our language,
Yeah,
the fact that you're responding to me.
With that is that with that very statement, it's something people take for granted. I think, therefore I am. Have you ever thought why? Why is that the case? Where's the proof? Is there a proof?
The proof is the fact that you're responding to me, the fact that we're having an argument, not an argument, a discussion. Yeah, the fact that we're having a discussion, the fact that we're waiting for the other person to finish and we're, articulating what we want to say based upon what the person's saying. Do you not think that's enough proof do you not think that that's enough proof that you're thinking? Is that not good enough proof?
That's proof that I'm thinking, sure.
Okay.
But that's not proof that I exist. By that same logic, I could say, I speak, therefore I exist.
I think that's a fair argument.
You see, I don't.
On what basis, though?
Well, prove it's true. Prove to me it's true.
Well, it's a metric, isn't it?
How so?
Why speaking is a metric?
No, are we defining, are you saying that we define our existence based on whether we can think? Because if that is the case, that's sure.
Not necessarily. What I'm saying is existence fundamentally is axiomatic.
Could you explain?
Yeah, axiomatic. Just like, for example, if a person looks at number one
Yeah,
in mathematics.
I know what axioms are, but what are the axioms of existence?
Axiomatic means that you can't, one of the definitions would be that you can't go on living your life, you can't do the most fundamental things if you don't believe you exist. You won't be able to procreate, you won't be able to eat, you won't drink. Your existence would be a fallacy, incarnate. The fact that you exist. Yes, indeed, some people can say, well, I don't really exist. Well, that person is just asking to get kicked in the head. Because if you don't exist, then you don't deserve that jumper. I'll take that, because I believe I exist. I'll take those shoes, I'll take your money, I'll take your house. Because frankly, in London, it's very difficult to survive. So if you don't exist, I believe I exist, so I might as well take your house.
Yeah, the thing is, you're saying is it axiomatic?
Do you see where I'm coming from?
I do understand where you're coming from, but I'm struggling to see how you can know that that's the case, because you're talking about this axiomatic theory of existence, right? Is that what you said?
The fact that you even did a course on mathematics,
sure.
You have to accept that you exist.
Okay, but let's talk about the axiomatic.
Yes.
By what I understand about that word, axiomatic means there are set axioms that this theory is built on.
No.
For example, axiomatic set theory. That's what it is with that.
So axiomatic in the sense that we have to accept that that thing exists or that thing is there for us to progress. Because otherwise there's going to be an infinite regress. You can say, oh, what's existence? Okay, it's communication. Okay, what's communication? It goes on forever.
We have to accept
so
that
philosophers,
we exist to progress. Sure.
We have to progress in any facet of life, whether it's science, whether it's mathematics, whether it's morals, whether it's ethics, whether it's communication.
We have to accept
in anything.
We exist.
It's a fundamental. Because if you say I don't exist,
I can completely agree with that. But again, this doesn't prove that we don't exist. It just proves that we have to think we exist to progress. That doesn't mean we actually exist.
No, but when you say proof, what do you regard as proof?
Well,
because Descartes gave the answer thinking, you're saying, oh, why is that the criteria? But that can go on forever then. Why is anything the criteria? Why is maths the criteria?
This is exactly why I am agnostic. You see, with maths, we have set axioms that everything is built upon.
Not necessarily. Why are those axioms set?
Because
why is that acceptable?
Because we chose them.
Why?
Because they work, and they work unbelievably.
Do they work all of the time?
Not all of the time.
Then why do we accept them?
We had to fix it.
No, why though? Why?
Now it works all the time.
Why?
Why? What do you mean?
Why have we fixed those ones if they don't work all of the time?
No, why can't the ones that didn't work?
Why can't we just go on living life without mathematics because we can't pin anything down? Why can't we just go about it, ignoring it, pushing it to the side, and thinking it doesn't exist because we can't pin it down? Why?
We have pinned it down.
We haven't, because you said yourself what we have pinned down is not precise.
We had the traditional theory that we had 100, 200 years ago was not precise. But since then we fixed it because there were.
How do we know?
Like Russell's paradox, all that stuff.
How do we know that in 100 years? How do we know in 100 years' time we're not going to fix this?
We don't.
Exactly. So how can you say you pinned it down when we don't know?
Sure, we don't know.
Then why can't we put maths to the side? Why can't we discard it when we don't know?
It works really nicely. That's quite frankly the answer, because it just works too conveniently and it'd be too much to lose.
Would you say science works very conveniently as well?
Not necessarily, no.
In what sense?
Science is tricky, isn't it?
Science is tricky, but the water cycle doesn't work very well.
Oh, that works well.
The fact that we are breathing oxygen, the fact that we are Homo sapiens, that we require water, we require oxygen.
Yeah, like is requiring water convenient?
Yes, because if we don't drink water, we die.
But what if we were just created that we didn't have to drink water? That'd
Then
be more convenient.
then you would die in 4 days.
No, but
You
if
can't
we were
survive.
If we were created in
You
a way
can't
where
listen.
we didn't
Listen.
need it.
You can't survive without water for 4 days. It's not something that you can be agnostic about. If you
No,
don't,
I understand.
if
but
you
I'm
don't,
saying-
wait. If you don't drink water, it's like existence or life or your body doesn't care about what you believe, what you don't believe. You are going to die.
I absolutely agree with you, but I'm saying the fact that we need to drink water to survive is it's not inconvenient.
The fact that we need, that's besides the point. I'm saying us drinking water has been told to us from science.
Yeah, okay,
Science
sure,
tells us
sure.
beyond 4 days you're going to die, therefore you drink water. Then science will proceed in saying this is how much your body needs because your body is approximately 70% water anyway for the reactions to take place. Science tells us about sunset, tells us what the sun is, tells us about air, tells us how to survive, how not to survive. Wouldn't you say that there's a degree of precision in science?
Sure, there's a degree, yeah.
But of course we can't take it certainly. Just like mathematics,
Yeah.
there's a degree of certainty. That's why at the beginning of the conversation, I said the inference to the best explanation. Inferring based upon our experience. Like you said, it works. Mathematics works based on what?
Our axioms.
Our axioms, in other words, our experience. Our
No, not
anthropocentrism,
really. It's what we've invented.
what
Or I
we've
guess
invented,
someone would argue we've discovered, but sure,
We
it's
can't
not
know.
from experience.
well, we can get into whether numbers, where 1 + 1 = 2.
Okay, is
Yeah.
1 + 0 = 1? Is that something we have got from experience?
I'll give you an example. 1 + 1 = 2. Would it be 2 if there's no human beings around to work that out?
It's a good question. It's a really good question.
That's
And
what I'm saying, that goes
I
in-
can't answer that, but I believe.
That's
yes,
because it goes into the realm of philosophy. That's what I'm saying. Then we go into a different form of questioning. What I'm saying is quite simply, you don't go about your life questioning mathematics. You don't question, for example, oh, that bus is going on the road. There is a possibility that there is no petrol or diesel in there or electricity in there. It could actually be on fairy dust. But you don't go about your life thinking or believing that, do you?
No.
Yeah, so
I
that's,
could.
you could, but you don't. So what I'm saying is that when you look at what's around you, when you look at existence, yeah, when you see a canvas, you believe that there is a painter. When you see a ship, you believe that there is a sailor, yeah. But when you see the world, you say, it just came by itself. But most likely, I'm telling you, from our experience, the complexity that the world has, the chances of it coming by itself is infinitesimal. The inference to the best
Although not
explanation, the inference to the best explanation is that there was a creator, based upon the argument that I said.
How have you done this?
Based
Because
upon the
also-
initial argument that I said, that if we take the metrics of deduction, philosophy, logical reasoning, and we say if we're dependent, and we depend on something else that depends on something else, we eventually get to a necessary existence.
So could you give me a probability of you being right? Is that something you can do?
In terms of what? Why does the... when you say probability, are you talking about in terms of numbers?
Yeah, like 60%.
I'd say 99.9999999. I would actually argue, not even 99.99, I would argue 100%.
But you said mine is infinitesimally small.
Minus what?
You said that the chance of me being right is infinitesimally small,
Of you being right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
although not 0.
Yeah.
So you can't be 100.
No, that's because I was just trying to be polite. But now, because you pinned me down on it, I'll say 0. If you pin me down on it.
You see, this is where I would just disagree.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm
Okay,
building
no,
the
no,
argument.
We can do this. We can do the computations. What are
Yeah.
the chances of you say of being right? It's 1 in 30 million, right?
Let me just fix this point, because I think eventually we're going to come back to this original point
Okay,
anyway,
okay.
yeah? So it helps if I've built that foundation, then you can critique it as much as you want, yeah? So philosophically, there's a necessary existence. It's independent. I would also argue, and it has power. I would also argue that it has will also.
Why so?
Reason being, because the fact that we were created in one time and not another time indicates that a choice was being made. Also, when we say that the necessary existence that is also independent formed creation, we're saying it was coerced by something else, which again is illogical if we believe that that necessary existence is independent, has power. So the logical inference is there's will also.
Why? Well, like, look,
Because if it didn't have will, then who told it to create us at what time? Why?
like if my dog knocked down a bowl and then it hit like a button that was conveniently there, which turned on my computer, did my dog will to turn the computer on?
Your dog is a dependent. Your dog.
No, but it doesn't matter if the
It
dog
does. I'll tell you why. Because here we're talking about the three types of existences, yeah, and we've accepted that there is a necessary existence. Your dog relies on multiple factors, and if you're of the philosophical school of thought of determinism, you don't believe your dog has any free will whatsoever. So again, we'll have to go into whether there is free will or not. But let's
You'll
just.
have to. I want to speak to you about this.
We could do. As Muslims, we believe in compatibilism. Yeah, but over here, a necessary existence, there's nothing preceding it. There's like everything depends upon it. So if it is making the choice of forming something at one time and not another, and forming dependent things that are composed of parts that can be any other way, that means a choice is being made. Let's
Why
put
could
these
it not
parts
have done it
here.
by accident?
Because that's not befitting of something that is intelligent. And we believe
But we
that.
don't know it's intelligent.
I'm saying the logic to the best inference is that it is intelligent.
Again, it's just an inference, though, no?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All of this is an inference. Is an inference.
So then how could you be 100%?
Because of compounded evidence. At the moment, I'm just telling you the philosophical argument. Okay. If I then go into further, if I go into scripture, then I go into prophecies, then I talk about numerical evidences, then I talk about, for example, peer-reviewed evidence and this and that. I'm saying if you amalgamate all of that and you scaffold all of that, I'd say it's 100%.
If it's 100%, then how is it a belief?
Say that again?
If it's 100%, then how is it a belief?
Because I haven't seen God.
Well, you know he exists for sure.
Yeah. So that's definitions, isn't it? Oh, belief technically is if you've seen that thing, you haven't seen it. Therefore, well, okay, then if I take that definition, okay. But belief, according to Muslims, is that's why when a person accepts Islam, they testify.
See, but for me...
But how can you testify if you haven't seen something? Because for us, you're only testifying when you are in absolute no doubt that that thing exists.
But belief requires faith, no? Faith in, like, unknown.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that faith upon the unknown, what is that relying upon? Is that relying upon evidences that are strong, that are solid?
I don't necessarily think so. It's just if you know for sure.
No, but you haven't heard the evidences yet.
No, I haven't.
That's why I'm saying that when I tell you as much as I can, of course, the evidences, hopefully you'll understand and you'll realize that, look, there are evidences, whether it comes to prophethood, whether it comes to the Quran, whether it comes to philosophy, rationality, whether it comes to even our experience, whether it comes to objective design. If you amalgamate and put them all together, it's 100%.
100%. It's a bold claim.
Of course. Of course it is.
Okay.
Just like it's a bold claim when people say, yes, everything, all of this design and these wonderful trees and the symmetrical birds and the golden ratio that we see, even in the sunflower seeds inside the sunflower, yeah, chance. I think that's a bold claim.
To say for sure, yeah, of course.
You see?
Yeah.
So they're both bold claims and both need to provide evidence. But just like people accuse theists of believing God of the gaps, which I don't pretend to, I would say a lot of atheists and agnostics fall into chance of the gaps as well. When they don't understand something, chance. Chance.
Oh, yeah, for sure, I know.
So, sorry, I forgot your name.
Jai.
Jai.
Yeah, J-A-I, yeah.
Oh, Jai.
Yeah, but it's pronounced Jai. I don't know. My parents are just like that.
It's an Indian name, no?
Yeah, but like I'm not Indian at all. My parents just chose it.
Well, it's a very what's the word, tropical name.
And what's your name?
Zishan. Zishan. Nice to meet you, Jay. Okay, Jai, do I have to say Jai or Jay? What do you prefer?
Please try. Please try. But Jai.
Jai.
If you
Okay.
insist, you can say.
No,
Jai.
I'm not going to. I can remember Jai because it rhymes with chai,
Yeah, exactly.
and we love chai, which is tea. So
I know Jai.
using that memory association technique. Okay, so coming back to this point. So I would say out of the three bold claims, all of this came by chance. Well, all of it came from nothing. Well, all of it came from a creator. I would say out of these three, the one that makes the most sense, whether it's experientially, whether it's philosophically, whether it's rationally or logically, I would say coming from a creator makes the most sense.
Okay, that's fair enough.
And then,
Quran.
yeah, which we're going to go into. We're going to go into. So even if we progress this further, the argument of will, again, this is a Ghazalian argument, which says that if you see a block which is blue, white, blue, the fact that there is a block that uses the same shapes and it has colors in it, that means a concerted effort, a choice has been made into firstly selecting the shape and secondly selecting the colors. And even when if a person says design, if an explosion was to happen, Jai, let's be honest, never in my experience, and maybe you can correct me, when an explosion happens, no one goes, yes, we're going to find some new creation there. We're going to find some new object or some new art there. I haven't come across a single person that's ever said that.
When I was blowing up blocks in Minecraft with TNT, I was looking for diamonds.
Yeah, but Minecraft has a programmer, isn't it? I know, I'm joking as well, yeah. So what I'm saying is that when people say that all of this that you see came from an explosion, but it was a special explosion. Oh, wow, a special explosion. Okay, can you please elaborate? Oh, well, there were certain particles there. Were they magical particles? Oh, I guess so, is the word.
It's a belief just as yours is as well.
Yeah, so, but again, that's taken as fact. And people, that's preached in schools.
I don't think it's taken as fact.
It is because in science, the way it's propagated, the way it's kind of taken is, it's reached such a high level of theory that in science that's pretty much taken as fact, according to the scientific definition.
It's a theory.
Well, it's
there are
called.
Things that have like been discovered that are contingent on it, sure, but it's still unproven, isn't it? It's still just a theory.
Well, that again is a different school of thought in science. Certain people will say, like for example, Richard Dawkins, he would say evolution is a fact. Bertrand Russell about physics, he again was a philosopher. He said, what we know about physics, Newtonian physics is a fact. We need to move on now. That's it, we're done. But then Einsteinian physics came and turned science on its head.
Well, Newtonian physics still applies for most things.
It applies on the macro level, not at the micro level. So in that sense, well, that's what it was, isn't it? What was the last thing that I was saying?
Newtonian physics.
Before that?
Maybe free will?
Big Bang, yeah?
Big Bang.
So you have an explosion that happens. You believe somewhat in the Big Bang, correct?
Somewhat, yeah.
So trees came from the Big Bang. Grass came from the Big Bang. You came from the Big Bang. Your eyes. There's even golden ratio on your face, the symmetry on your face as well. The fact that, you know, you're able to survive. Your heart beats 100,000 times a day. There's an average life expectancy of a human being to live 60 to 70 years. On average, generally speaking.
It's a bit higher here, I think.
Yeah, 60 to 70 years. It's actually higher, actually.
It's 80 here, I think.
Yeah, for 60 to 70 years if we were to take
sure.
a rough average. So the human being is expected to outlast a Toyota, outlast a Bugatti, a Ferrari. Yeah, but we're saying, yes, a Bugatti was designed. Yes, a Bugatti was created, but a human being, there was an explosion long time ago, mate. Chance came. I don't know if I exist. So what I'm saying is that we don't go about our life believing that things. Can you give me an example of an explosion that created something?
No.
So I'm saying, if we lay down our arms and we can revisit certain things, Jai, no problem.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, as somebody that has to navigate in life, if we were to say, you know what, let's do a first principles approach to this. That out of these, what sort of options would make sense? I think you've been fairly honest, to be honest. fairly honest, to be honest. You said you exist, I exist, most likely there is a necessary existence, it's independent, it has power, it has will. You have issues with regards to the design, but if I was to push you and say, look, the fact that we have objective design, symmetry, golden ratio, Fibonacci's ratio as well, or spiral, would you be pushed and say, you know what, I would accept this objective design?
I'm not sure about that.
You don't believe golden ratio can be measured objectively as design?
The thing is, you'll never get a perfect golden ratio anyway.
But that we can say even with the height of somebody. Nothing, you can't get anything perfect.
Exactly.
Even symmetry, there's no technical thing like symmetry. It doesn't mean you're not going to learn about symmetry in maths. You could just sit in your maths lesson, you can go to the exam and you can say, well, technically, it's not symmetrical, I can't draw a line. Whatever line I draw will never be symmetrical.
Everything in maths is it's hypothetical, isn't it? We're not
but it doesn't mean that you would discard it completely. It doesn't mean you wouldn't bother studying it. It doesn't mean that you would disregard it.
I do not treat it as real. It's up in the air, isn't it?
So when you go to the bank and you ask for £50 and he gives you 2p, I don't believe maths is real anyway.
Well, that's money, isn't it?
That's maths. Counting money is maths.
I know, but like, we're not holding 50, the number in our hand. We're holding £50 in our hand. It's a different.
How many pounds?
50 of them.
50. That's a number.
But we're not holding the number. We're holding.
You're not holding the number, but
I understand
that concept is being materialized in something, correct?
Okay.
So I would say this act of design, although I can't touch design, but it's been materialized in symmetry that you see around you. Let me give you another example. The reason why we actually do take this seriously, if somebody was excavating in Mars and they're digging and they come across a vase,
That's right.
do you not think it's going to be front page news everywhere? Yeah. Elon Musk's going to be talking about it.
Of course.
Everyone's going to be talking about it. Even Trump, with his one IQ brain, will be talking about it as well.
Hey, you hear this?
Oh, is he a fan of Trump?
Yeah.
I said Trump has one IQ, and then he said, tell him.
Oh, no, I don't. Obviously, I agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
Okay, he doesn't agree.
So,
I like economics, isn't it? So I like our economy to be boosted.
Okay, our economy, yeah.
So when no one's gonna say, would you say that generally en masse people are gonna say, why is this such a big deal? You found a vase on Mars. What do you think the response to that would be? Why it is a big deal? Why is it a big deal?
Because it appears to have had an intelligent creator.
Appears to the general masses or to one or two daft blokes?
To everyone.
So we go about our life. Aliens. If, for example, we see the word, or, like we've sent an aircraft back. Sorry. We've sent some sort of craft in space that has communication in there, that if alien life was to find it, then it is to respond to us or it is to reach out. If something...
Voyager, right?
Yeah, one of the Voyagers. If it reaches back with, hello, my name is Alien. I don't like your faces. I'm not going to be coming back. Our people are going to be like, why on earth are you guys making a big deal? How are you laughing? Why do you believe aliens have a sense of humor? That's because putting words together in that specific order, that it fulfills the criteria of language, you believe that there is an element of
Intelligence.
Yeah, intelligence.
But
yeah?
it's not given.
According to your criteria, nothing is given, but that's why initially I understood that and I respected that, and I said the inference to the best explanation.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to keep falling into this. Yeah? So the inference to the best, I'll just use this term. So the inference to the best explanation is, there is intelligence. So similarly, just how we would accept intelligence when it came to alien form, when it came to even paleontology, if we find a bone structure of a brontosaurus, we wouldn't say, oh man, billions of years right there, mate. Billions of years. No one says that. So what I'm saying is we don't believe that when it comes to bones. We don't believe that when it comes to a work of art. We don't believe that when it comes to a phone. We don't believe that. And I'm getting again.
We don't believe it when it comes to bones.
Bones, like if we were to dig and find bones in a specific order, that it tells us that this used to be a dinosaur, we wouldn't say this is just chance.
Okay, I understand.
And it's just random rocks that have come together through chance. So I'm saying similarly, Jai, that from the options that we've discussed, because if somebody says this universe came from nothing, nothing comes.
Everything, yeah.
Chance, again, if a person says chance created all of this, then you fall in the fallacy of reification, which is you're attributing agency to a abstract idea. Like wait, you made a good point. I'm going to praise you a little bit. Where you said initially that, look, money is somewhat an abstract concept, yeah? Chance is like a concept also. Gravity is our formulation of what is happening in reality. We formulated something. Doesn't mean that when it drops it equals like mass equals force times acceleration has dropped. Do you see?
Yeah.
So when it comes to gravity, abstract. When it comes to chance, abstract. We don't say chance creates things. We don't say nothing creates things. Yeah?
Yeah. You're saying it was created by chance. Like, does it make sense?
You see?
Yeah.
It's like the rolling of a dice created my cup of tea there. Well, how did the rolling of a dice is that chance is an explanation. That chance doesn't force the dice to move.
Yeah.
Chance explains things. For example, the law of motion.
Sure.
It doesn't make the billiard ball move.
Yeah,
There needs to be an agency behind it, correct? So all we're saying is that the inference to the best explanation, when you look at all of the various options, is that there is a creator. That makes the most sense.
Why not a special explosion?
Is that?
Why not a special explosion?
Because then that would be appealing to something which is extremely, well, the word that I'm using is negligible. And the point that I initially said to you, the inference to the best explanation. That's the worst explanation.
Okay.
Yeah, like a very loose definition of Occam's razor, even though I'm sure I'm butchering it, but sometimes the most simplest answer is the best answer.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we go further. That you have this because to us, remember the definition that I gave you, the one, independent. Doesn't beget nor is it begotten because obviously there's a necessary existence and there's nothing like it. That's pretty much our definition of God. Now the question would be that God, and I would argue that it is wise. Yeah, because if it has intelligence, if there's intelligence here, then it would be wise as well. And how would I say it's wise? I'll say even if just a small introspection into the creation, looking at food webs, looking at the ecosystem, how even if one creature is taken out, society, and like, I don't know if you went through these experiments in science, that if you remove the fox, then this species increases exponentially. If you remove the grasshopper, then this increases. So there is a delicate balance. Even if you look at the cell, you've got the nucleus, you've got the cytoplasm, you've got the rough endoplasmic reticulum, you've got the ribosomes, and all of these are balanced. All of these have a goal within a human being. They require water. On Earth, there is water, 70% water. On Mars, there is no life, there is no water. So we're saying that how can you say there's probability upon probability upon probability, and all of these are hedging towards life, but by chance. Oh, and by the way, there's no other example of anything like this. This is a totally minuscule probability of us coming into existence. I would say if that's a very small probability, and the greater probability, according to our experience, is from everything that we've observed from day one, is that there is a creator and a designer.
Well, I guess the leap in logic is you're asserting that this creator is not right. Is like.
I think you would even agree.
Else.
You would even agree because time and space started at the Big Bang. There was no time and space before then. So this necessary existence has to transcend time and space.
I know, but that's a.
And the fabric of.
That's a leap in logic that. You know, it may be hard to quantify the probability.
Not a leap in logic, because that's why initially I said dependencies. You can't have an infinite regress of dependencies. If you look at Earth, if you look at what's in the Earth, all of these are dependent things.
But you're asking me to believe in an intelligent being that I can comprehend.
you can't comprehend a lot of things. You don't comprehend dark energy, dark matter, but yet you still believe in them. You can't comprehend many things in mathematics. You can't comprehend in true symmetry, but yet you go about your life telling a woman that you like, that you're going to marry afterwards. Look, you're very beautiful, you're very nice, you're this, you're that. And when you go to the dentist, you say, my teeth are not symmetrical, I like to get braces. Actually, technically speaking, this truth is bigger than it. Look, mate, just cut the crap, just fix this. Yeah, just sort this out. Yeah, and you go to the woman, she's like, how do you think I look? Does it look all right? Well, technically, your lipstick is not really symmetrical. Yeah, but yeah, sir. We go about our life doing science, doing mathematics like you've admitted. But what's interesting, Jai, is we take leaps of faith in everything else. In chance, in mathematics, and all of this stuff. But when it comes to God,
Could you give an example?
you're like symmetry. Like you've accepted yourself that there's no absolute symmetry. According to you, there's
Not in the real world.
not in the real world, and according to you, the symmetry of the paper might not even exist. But
What do you mean by this?
like initially when we were talking about existences, you said there is a possibility that I may not exist. However, you don't go about living your life in a solipsistic sort of way. You've hedged your bets with the fact that you do exist.
So if I did live solipsistically, I would assume I exist.
Yeah, you would.
I'm the only one that exists.
Well, and solipsistically, you'd only believe that you exist,
Yeah.
not anything else. But this is worse than solipsism.
So nothing exists.
Do you see? But you don't go about living your life like that because
No,
you're
of course
hedging your bets by saying,
Or like,
what's that thing?
it wouldn't be worth living if I didn't believe I existed.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So what I'm saying, Jay, is on everything else, we're willing to say, you know what? This is the inference to the best explanation. That's fine, and I can scaffold the evidence. But when it comes to religion, I think the criteria that we typically use, we suddenly become deaf and blind. Yeah, I would even go further, deaf, dumb, and blind, and you say, huh? What is this? What is that? I don't know this. I don't know that. You do. You do. When I say you, I mean just generally speaking. You do know what this is, referring to existence. You do know you exist. You do, hand on heart, don't accept that things just pop into existence and out of existence. You believe that there is somewhat a system and an organization in place. That's why you cross the road, not believing that a bus will randomly just pop into existence, or a hippo with one leg asking you to vote for Theresa May. That doesn't make any sense, because Theresa May is not even up for elections. Forgetting that why that hippo is even there with one leg. Poor hippo. So in that sort of sense, my friend, this is what I'm saying. Now, if we were to scaffold this further, and we say that, look, this existence is there, we are intelligent, yeah? We are wise. Logically speaking, if we are coming and depending on that thing should also be intelligent and wise, because if we can comprehend what's going on around us and we have innate morals and innate things within us, surely that necessary existence has to have these attributes to a higher degree. Then I go further and I say that, okay, if all of the religions are claiming that there is a holy book, what would you say, as a skeptic, what would you say needs to be your criteria, Jai, for something to be considered a book from God?
Never changes.
Never changes. Okay, proceed.
If it was
Don't feel rushed.
a book from God, it would have to be true, right?
In what sense? What do you mean?
It would have to be absolute. I don't know, like.
Because bear in mind, this is criteria that you're now giving for you to believe in that book. Don't feel rushed. I'm not rushing.
Believe in God.
No, for you to believe that this book is from God. We've already established.
It would have to provide, proof that it's from God.
What sort of proof?
I'm not sure, man. Some proof.
Shall I help you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Would you agree, and as always, stop me if you disagree, would you accept that if a book is meant to be from God and it's come thousands of years down the line, the first evidence needs to be that this is the same book that was revealed.
Yeah.
And the criteria of this can't necessarily be complicated such that a layman can't understand, which would mean that the only people that are convinced and that have proof are just the scholarly class, which again doesn't make sense, is not befitting of God that's making religion accessible to everybody.
This is where the Bible falls down, isn't it?
Your words, not mine at the moment.
I'm not Christian.
Yeah, but does that sound like a fair criteria to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when it comes to the Holy Book, would you also say that the language that it was revealed in, there has to be evidence that anyone can access that language independently, again, of the scholarly class as well, because scholarly class, they can change it or whatnot?
Yeah, yeah.
Would you also say if all of the holy books were burnt, put in a river, sent to Mars, wherever, that the scripture should still be accessible to the people word for word?
Yeah.
Because surely it shouldn't be subject to human destruction.
I agree.
Would you also say that there has to be things in there like prophecies? Yeah, if there are individuals, then for an individual to claim he's from God, he needs to be mentioning and talking about stuff that shows that he is getting knowledge from a superior source.
See, this is where it starts to fall down, I think. No, not really.
So you don't believe prophecies would be a good criteria? That if somebody claims to be from God, that their claims need to be supernatural as well and measurable? Because everybody that claims to be from God claims to have some sort of miracle and they have to evidence something, right?
Miracle, yeah, but like with a prophecy, it becomes like if I cast out 100, predictions of the future, one of them will come true.
Okay, if prophecies are taken at their face value, not with human meddling, like you said, that's not necessarily a prophecy. That's 100 prophecies from which one has come out to be correct. I'm talking about prophecies, plural. Would you say that if there are multiple prophecies that can be measured using primary source, again, that's something today you could measure as well, would you say that's a decent enough criteria?
Okay, look, it's a different thing because you're saying...
We don't have to go into that if you're unhappy with that.
No, it's just there's a difference between a book has to have all of these things for me to believe in it, and if a book is from God, then it has to have all these things. It's like different. Because the first three, what is it? Has to be accessible by everyone, has to be understood by everyone and it can't change and all this. That doesn't prove it's a book from God. But I would expect a book from God to have all those qualities. You can give me all these criteria, and sure, if I have a book from God, then I would expect them to meet all these criteria. But just because a book meets all these criteria doesn't mean it's from God, you see?
But that's why my initial question to you was, for you to believe that a book is from God, what would that criteria be?
Yeah, and that is quite simply proof. That's the main criteria for me.
And what do you mean by proof? What sort of proof? That's why this is an example of different types of proofs.
Yeah.
Evidences. I'm not saying take them in isolation. I'm saying take them as a scaffold.
Okay. Continue, please.
So, but it's good you asked that, because if we would have gone through all of that and then it went back to that, then yeah.
Okay.
No, it's good. It's good you do it at the right time so we can fix it and then we can move on. The Quran, as I'm sure you've been told, is the only holy book from the ancient holy books that if all the books are burnt, it can be written word for word. Reason being, it's mass memorized.
Yeah, I remember he tells me 300 million, something like that.
Children as young as 6 have memorized it. Yeah? And grandpas as well. Number 2, the language of the Quran is a live language. Arabic is the 4th or 5th most spoken, it fluctuates on the planet, most spoken language. Jesus spoke Aramaic. According to UNESCO, it's an endangered language. Sanskrit of the Vedas, again, not a live language. Hebrew, only spoken by certain Israelis. Yeah, and even Koine Greek that the New Testament is written in. It's not a common language, not accessible by everybody. So Arabic of the Quran is accessible, it's memorized. In fact, even as somebody that, if someone's like, look, I need evidence, I need physical evidence. We, out of the ancient religions, we have a manuscript that dates to the time of compilation. We're the only ones.
Yeah,
And that's present in the University of Birmingham. And even its authenticity has been carbon dated by the University of Oxford.
yeah, he told me.
Yeah, and there's 100% word accuracy. So that's why I think maybe you said that the Bible doesn't fulfill that criteria. Neither does the Old Testament, neither does the Vedas. Yeah, neither does the other books that are already extinct now.
Sure.
So, and even if we look at, for example, the challenges within the Quran as well, produce a verse like it, or find any contradictions in it. If there were contradictions in the Quran, and the Quran is making this challenge that find contradictions in it, surely at Speaker's Corner there will be people here with a big scroll, hear ye, hear ye. This
Do we
is...
have that for the Bible?
The Bible doesn't make that claim because Christians don't believe that it is perfectly preserved and from God. We believe this is a book from God.
Yeah,
They believe that 4 guys without any surnames, without any verification, penned down the life of Jesus afterwards. And the earliest manuscript we have of the Bible is 300 years after. Yeah, it's problematic.
I agree. I agree with
Yeah,
you a lot, yeah.
there's many issues when it comes to that. So when you say something is from God, then when you speak to them about it, they'll say, no, it's inspired by God. There were people that gave their thing. Okay, then I want the book. Because in Mark and Matthew, Gospel of Mark and Matthew, says Jesus was preaching the gospel. Which gospel? Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John? And if those 4 gospels were written at least 40 years after Jesus, how was Jesus able to preach gospels that were written after Jesus? What was he preaching? And 2 of those 4 are not even disciples of Jesus. So how was Jesus preaching a gospel that was written by people that didn't even see him?
I couldn't tell you, man.
But these are more rhetorical questions just to show that our criteria is different to that of the Christians.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So when we say something is from God, we can give criteria of preservation, whether it's an average individual that say, you know what, it makes sense why the Quran would be preserved and the Bible wouldn't, be it the Old Testament, New Testament, whatnot. Then there's prophecies in the Quran as well. And sorry, you made the point about contradictions. The Bible, in the preface, King James Version, the old one, actually tells you there are minor and major mistakes in it. So when your book is admitting this, why do I need to come with a scroll at Speaker's Corner? You know what I mean? So, but the Quran is actively making that claim. There are no contradictions in it. So then, if we look at prophecies, there are numerous prophecies in the Quran. None have been called embarrassing by eminent Muslims. None have been proved to be false. In fact, there's a prophecy of Jesus called the Olivet Discourse by C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis called he's a very popular Christian, and Narnia had strong Christian themes in it as well, yeah. So C.S. Lewis is respected amongst the Christians. He called the Olivet Discourse, an embarrassing prophecy of Jesus. Because Jesus prophesied that the end of times would come at the time of him and his companions. And obviously we're still alive. And Christians believe Jesus is no more.
Did he prophesy, he was a prophet for you guys as well?
Yeah, for us he was a prophet.
Did he make that prophecy as well?
No.
You don't believe it?
No.
Well,
For
Christians
Christians,
do believe that.
they believe he's God, and they believe he made that prophecy. And I can give you the reference of that as well.
Okay.
And he called it an embarrassing prophecy.
It is, quite frankly.
Prophet never made such prophecies. No eminent Muslim scholar has ever called the Prophet's prophecy embarrassing. In fact, there are certain prophecies, and this is why there's a book called Forbidden Prophecies. I'd recommend you read this if you get a chance. It actually goes through the prophecies made by I Ching, Nostradamus, the guy from Scientology, loads of them. And I don't know if you've studied cold reading, you know, people that read palms and all that.
Yeah, I haven't, but like, I know what you mean.
That's good, that will help in this discussion. Because typically speaking, when you're making a prophecy, Jai, there are certain principles that you need to follow. One is be vague. Yeah, be vague. Do not give and specify time. That's the worst thing that you can do. Yeah, and say things that there's a probability, there's a strong probability of them taking place and happening. You don't hedge your bets on the horse, that there's a horse race going on and there's a horse going on with 3 legs and then he's waddling right at the back.
Of course.
And then you make the prophecy he's going to win now. That's bloody impressive if he wins. Wouldn't you say so?
Of course, yeah.
There was a prophecy that the Prophet, peace be upon him, made, which is actually more impressive than this disabled horse winning the races. Which one?
That's Syria.
Okay, I thought you said the Syria one.
Oh, no,
Yeah. So, at the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the Roman Byzantines were fighting the Persians. They were losing miserably. To such a degree, they lost Jerusalem, Constantinople, and Egypt. Heraclius, the leader, was literally brought to his knees, and add insult to injury, a plague had broken out. Because that's all you need, isn't it? You've lost all your strong points, your king is on his knees, and a plague's flipping broken out. And of course they were losing miserably. It was at that moment that the Prophet made the prophecy. He said, within 9 years, more specifically from 3 to 9 years, the Byzantines will beat the Persians. Lo and behold, and even before I tell you the end,
this was not in the Quran.
This is in the Quran.
It is in the Quran.
Yes.
So did he prophesize it, or because the Quran is the word of God, no?
It's the word of God, but it's articulated. The Prophet narrates the word of God, isn't it?
Okay.
So there are certain things that the Prophet tells us what is God, in other words. Otherwise, how are we going to know? God's not telling us. He's telling his Prophet, his messenger. So then, the Prophet, peace be upon him, i.e. the Quran revelation, tells us, but before I get into that, certain historians like Susan Wise Bauer and Theophanes, they say that the Byzantine army were ill-prepared, they were lazy, and they didn't have enough armory. This is whom the Prophet, peace be upon him, is saying, yeah, these guys are going to win. And not to mention the plague and all of that business going on. The Byzantines, within that period, won. Now the question would be here is, but how do you get out of this circular reasoning? Oh, it's mentioned in the Quran, therefore it must be true. Now we go to history. There is a primary source. In history, primary source is the best form of evidence. A primary source by somebody called Theophanes. In a book called the Chronicles of Theophanes, he confirms exactly what the Quran says, the date structure of the Quran, and that book is even accessible today by historians and by students of history as well. You can check that out. And on top of that, there's another pronged approach, because the Quran then said that the Muslims will be celebrating. Hang on a minute. There's another prophecy within the prophecy? Yes, like the Chamber of Secrets within Hogwarts. Yeah, and this was referring to a battle that again the Muslims were in. The Muslims were 313 against an army of 1,000. Lo and behold, the Muslims won in that battle as well. So this prophecy in both of its aspects proved to be true, had the date structure in it, was evidence again by primary sourced evidence, is proved by a scripture that we have manuscripts for, and we have, of course, other evidence that place its time for when it said that it is there. Give me your thoughts about that.
It's very impressive. You know, obviously, I'm going to say it. It's not impossible, but it is impressive enough for me to. Yeah, I think I will check it out.
Okay, fantastic. Check out the book Forbidden Prophecies by Abu Zakaria. This will probably be online in a couple of days anyway. So,
okay.
so anything that I've said, you can go back and you can cross-reference the stuff that I've said, even the stuff about philosophy and stuff like that. You can say, oh, he was lying there. Look, the amount of cameras here. That's why I do it, just so no one can accuse me of just picking things out of my pocket. Even the dates and stuff you can check as well. Yeah. So Forbidden Prophecies is actually free. The PDF is free online.
I'll check it out.
And then, yeah, and there's
I'll just write it
yeah,
down.
write it down, yeah. Where's your friend gone?
Oh, he's over there. Before I leave,
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you I just wanted to ask one thing, and this. Okay, I've got it here.
Now I'll put it to you, like, because your friend's not here, if there's anything you want to ask about, even controversial questions, terrorism, Palestine,
it's,
this, that.
I'm not too concerned about politics.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask, is this free will business? You say there are no contradictions in the Quran. You believe we have free will?
We don't believe in absolute free will.
Okay, that's interesting to me because
That's why I said compatibilism.
yeah, okay, because this is why we came, because my friend he couldn't answer this. And he wanted me to ask you.
Yeah.
This is something that's very confusing to me. How can Allah know what is going to happen, know our fates, and yet we can still dictate our fates?
So a very simple answer to this would be, even if I was to preface this, that sometimes certain atheists bring this as an argument against God, yeah, as if it's going to disprove God. Let's just say, for argument's sake, well done, atheist. Then he leaves, and then he's like, okay, do I believe in free will? There's three schools of thought, even in philosophy as well.
Yeah.
You've got the deterministic school of thought, free will, and you've got compatibilism as well. And again, there's no analogy that explains how you can have free will and you can have determinism and this and that. I would say, quite simply, even in religion and in theology, that's one of the things that, as an explanation, it's very difficult to do. Like, we believe in compatibilism, the how of it, we don't know. But if I was to answer on a very, very rudimentary level, I would say that knowing something doesn't imply coercion. For example, I was a primary school teacher for 6 years.
Okay.
By the end of my time or my era, I would be able to very specifically determine which students would pass and which would fail. Why? Because in my experience, I could just tell. But if I said that a student would fail, and that student failed, and he turned around and said, "You said I was going to fail, therefore I failed." I don't think that's sound reasoning.
I agree with you, but the difference is you're not God. You can't know that kid's not going to pass for sure.
Oh, Jazakallah. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
You have a very good idea, and you made a very accurate guess, but you don't know for sure.
But here's what I would say, that with us, we have very limited understanding and knowledge. God has, his knowledge he's the all-knowing. So for us, again, even when we were talking about before, when it came to immeasurable and infinity, these are concepts that we fail to grasp and understand. And I would say, when you're talking about someone with that is all-knowing, for somebody with limited reasoning and with the inductive measures that we have of knowing stuff, I wouldn't know how to articulate or answer that. And that's why even in our theology, we're told that it's something that we take on belief.
Okay, that's interesting because to me, as an outsider, this is a contradiction. If someone knows what's going to happen to me, then I can't make any decision to prevent that from happening, because that's going to happen.
Wait, when I gave the example, you said, "But that's me and that's God," and then I gave the point that God is all-knowing, yeah. And for us to kind of grasp that, it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to make sense to us. So we go by our examples here. So let's just say, if your friend predicts that you're going to go home, which is highly likely, because let's face it, depending on the time that we finish, he probably knows you somewhat.
Yeah.
Can you then say that, oh, he made me go home?
No, I can't.
So I would say a similar analogy over here as
But
well.
I can also make the choice to not go home.
You could, but the more your friend knows, the more his knowledge is, the less likelihood of him getting it wrong, correct?
Of course, but the likelihood of him getting it wrong is not zero.
But the point here was he's not compelling you to go home though, is he?
No.
He's just exercising the knowledge that he has based upon the variables that he knows. And some people say that if somebody even knows the variables of nature, he can predict if I throw a ball where exactly it would land. If you know all of the variables and you have all of that knowledge, and if somebody has that knowledge, when they know everything, then they can predict every single thing in the universe. Hence why, correct me if I'm wrong, the viewers I'm sure they could do, Einstein also went towards this trajectory and said that there has to be a way that we can map everything that's happening. We can get into the mind of God sort of thing. But then this was one of the things that he failed at.
So
in other words, knowing something doesn't imply coercion.
right, but like if Allah, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but if God knows that I'm never going to become
You can
Muslim,
say Allah, it's fine.
Allah,
Yeah.
if Allah knows I'm never going to become Muslim, then I will never become Muslim. I have no choice.
But
I can't then choose to not become Muslim because he knows everything and he knows with certainty that I am not going to.
he knows the outcome, but he is not forcing the outcome. For example, there's two ways.
He's not forcing the outcome, but I have no choice in the matter. The outcome is going to happen regardless of what I choose.
I'll give you an example. If God says, Jai must not accept Islam, and in another place, Jai will not accept Islam. Must not indicates you have no choice in the matter. You can make this argument in that case. Jai will not indicates knowledge of that choice, doesn't indicate coercion, only indicates an existence that knows what you would do.
But I'm not talking about coercion. God is not coercing me to
Yes.
never become Muslim, obviously. But I do not have
If
the
he's not
free
co-
will.
if
I
he's
do
not
have the
coercing you-
capability to choose.
But if he's not coercing you, that indicates free will.
I don't think that's true.
Go ahead.
Look, if I want to take a drink of water, am I being coerced to?
If you want to take a drink, no.
But I do.
Right.
Have I made that choice?
Yes.
Can I control? Have I made the choice to think I want water? Have I made the choice to become thirsty? Is that an active choice I am making?
You becoming thirsty is deterministic. You making the choice is free will.
Why do I take a swig of my water? It's because I want to.
I could be thirsty, but I could still not take a swig of my water. That's a free will. But if the fourth day is running out, like in science, they tell us if you don't drink water for 4 days, you're going to die. I have no choice.
Right, but like, I don't like. Okay, just why did I come speak to you? Why did I come here? Because I wanted to know. Now, did I have a choice in the matter of me wanting to know? That's not a choice I made. It's just something that
It
happened.
is a choice you made.
Why so? I cannot control what I want.
Because before you, I was speaking to an elderly couple. They shut me down straight away. They weren't interested. The fact that you stood here politely, we had a very good conversation. If you didn't want to know, you would have just said, you know what, bro, I'm just not interested.
I agree, exactly. And that's exactly what I'm saying, is that
So, free will. Yeah.
I am not.
That, you know what,
am not
I was in two
controlling
minds
that
there.
I want to do it. You know?
Yeah, I was in two minds. Should I drink that or should I not drink it? That's why a bit just came out. Neither in my mouth, neither in there.
Oh, I didn't know it. So.
That's also compatibilism as well.
Right, but it's just the thing that I have trouble wrapping my head around.
It's not just you. This is something that if you go first principles on, even atheists don't necessarily have an answer to this as well.
I don't think I can prove I have free will. I can say, yes, I am making a choice, but I have the illusion of making a choice. I think I'm making a choice. It doesn't mean I am making a choice. I'm just taking it for given. It's like
That would be determinism. And
I know,
that's
but how can we not say that that's the case?
because then you'd have to define free will, and you'd have to, you know, then that's where you would get into the fact that, okay, this is determinism, that's free will. Do we have free will in anything? Determinists would say no, free will people would say yes, we do. Yeah. We are making a concerted effort, because if we didn't, then even sociologically society would fall apart, because you can't then put a murderer in prison, because he will argue, I was determined by nature to do this, I shouldn't be held accountable. So again, from a functioning of society point of view, for society to function, again, it's one of those things that gets accepted.
I completely agree, but if God knew that that guy was going to kill someone, did he really have a choice in the matter? God knows him so well, he knows that's exactly what he's going to do.
God created him, yeah.
So can he suddenly change his mind at the last minute? Is he capable of doing that?
That wouldn't mean God is all-knowing then, isn't it? If, for example, I'm an expert, I'm creating a microphone. If I'm an expert who creates microphones and I end up making a microwave, I'm not really good at making microphones, isn't it? So if God is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-hearing, omnipotent, omniscient, then we say, yeah, but if he creates us and that guy doesn't do it, he doesn't technically know. You can't call him all-knowing.
By the way, does it explicitly say that in the Quran, that he is all-knowing, all-powerful, etc.?
Yeah, there's certain, there are many qualities of Allah that are mentioned in the Quran.
He's not all-loving, though, is that right?
When you say all-loving, there's somebody told me what the word al-wudud actually means. Because we don't say God loves.
Because I know in the Bible it says he loves everyone.
Yeah, no, we don't believe he loves everyone. No.
Okay, interesting.
In the Quran, so in Arabic, God has 99 names. One of them names is Al-Wudud. Al-Wudud means the most loving or loving. But we don't believe he's all loving.
That's the translation.
He is the most loving.
The most loving.
Yes, it's different. I understand.
That he is all loving.
Yeah, just the most loving.
Yeah, so God hates, for example, God hates the action of disbelief. Or God hates the action of somebody.
Oh, I've got one for you, I think. Oh, sorry.
The problem with these things are when they start leaking, it's sticky. Thank you, bro.
So God, for example, hates certain people. He hates people who actively try to change the religion, or who associate partners with him, or individuals who try to corrupt people, for example.
Right, but
And if somebody does something knowingly against God's will, God will hate that action, even sometimes the individual.
But God knows that they're going to commit that action already.
Yeah.
So then how?
I'm gonna go right now. And I put my mark to guide you.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
So God knows someone will do that action. So what's the point then?
If God knows someone is going to do something and they cannot go any other way. They can't make a conscious decision to.
What are you talking about? Predestination?
Look, if God knows that someone is who is someone God hates? Like someone that worships like an idol, right?
No, God doesn't hate an individual. God hates somebody, for example. God hates the action of worshipping an idol. And if somebody if somebody knows Islam is the truth and tries to actively change it and corrupt people, God, but you can always repent for that stuff as long as you don't die upon it. You know what I mean?
Okay,
like,
interesting.
I wholeheartedly believe that God hates Hitler. I wholeheartedly believe that God hates Netanyahu. I wholeheartedly believe that God hates those individuals. We don't believe that God loves everybody. But he knows that they are going to do those actions, but he doesn't command them to do it. If he stopped it, then what's the point of free will? That's the main argument.
The test.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Giving people the choice to do good
It's not
and do
just
bad.
about the test as well.
Just do good.
It's just about free will in general. I mean, what separates us from the angels? God creates.
Because one camera for the nose.
Do angels have free will?
Angels don't have free will.
What about Shaitan? Was he not an angel?
So Shaitan was not actually an angel.
Oh, I think I'm getting confused with Christianity.
Yeah, Christianity, they believe that Lucifer
That
wasn't an
angels
angel.
have free will. I
We
think they believe that.
I don't know what they believe if angels have free will, but they believe that Lucifer is an angel. We don't say that.
Okay.
We believe he's a spirit. So
Okay.
he, knowing God knew this obviously, he disobeyed God's will and he became the devil at the end of the day. But we don't believe that angels have free will. And that's what separates humans from angels. Actually, the angels asked God, they said, why would you create a human knowing that they would do this? The angels, the angels asked God, they told him, why would you make a creation like the human being who is capable of doing so much evil? God answered, I am all-knowing, you don't know anything, angels. Why are you asking me? I don't know. And he replied as well, he said, because they have free will, something that you don't have. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah.
So, I think the beauty of Islam is finding it with free will. That's the thing. So when God knows you're going to do something, He doesn't command you to do it. There's no contradiction there. There's no, God creates you.
But
He
if
doesn't
God,
create your actions.
see, if God knows something is going to happen,
Yeah.
do you really have the choice to go separately from that path?
Yeah, because He's not the one that told you.
No. But say God.
Okay, so think about it like this. God only knows what's going to happen because you're doing it. Do you see what I mean? So God only knows that I'm here because I willingly chose to be here. See what I mean? So
Okay,
God didn't
okay.
say, okay, God speak his corner, I know you're going to do it and you have no other will. God knew my action because I chose it. And God just sees the future.
So, bro, check it out, inshallah. The stuff that I've mentioned, you can continue the conversation with him. But yeah, I'll take that. And yeah, normally I come Sundays. So if there's any follow-up or questions or something, think about what I said. And hopefully we can touch base again soon as well, yeah?
Evolution, you were asking about so many things.
We can come back.
You can ask him as well.
Sure.
Yeah? It's up to you.
I'm a layman myself.
If you want to ask before I go or you want to ask next time, it's up to you.
I think we'll come back. No?
Okay.
I'm down to come. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Really nice meeting with you, bro. Assalamu alaikum. You guys can carry on. Assalamu alaikum.